in 2008, in October 2008, for the cap again. You're the one working hard on that, among other people, to get the voter initiative. But that's where you're, so that's a lower amount.
Yeah, what really saved our bacon over the years is the new construction. I mean, at the city, with all this Bentley Trust property being developed, and our property tax revenues have increased by almost 100% in the last 10 years, even though the mill rate's been stagnant.
My other question goes to the summer sales tax. What other jurisdictions have such a thing where you double it in the summer? And second, what are the economic implications as far as commerce that you see? And third, what is the linkage of additional services that are utilized by those people that are buying things in the summer versus the winter? Has that analysis been done? Because we're doubling the sales tax in the summer. Auspiciously, you'd have a double utilization of services. That's generally the linkage between taxes and service. So has that analysis been done?
The analysis that was done, Rick, is out on the website. It was done by Information Insights. You can look at that. They have the approximate estimations of what the sales tax revenue will bring in, both in the 2.5 and then the additional 2.5. And it takes slices through our economy, different groups, large box stores, retail, hotels, etc.
Did they look at service? I don't think they looked at service utilization. I think all they looked at was revenues and the additional revenues that would be garnered. I don't think there was any linkage with services.
When discussion occurred in the tax committee, we know that that's part of the reference materials and information sets out. There's not an analysis that's posted, but it's part of what they took into account when they were doing their number crunching stuff that goes over my head, that people coming into the borough would utilize parks, would utilize roads, would utilize other services than residents typically utilize. But it was
at a higher rate.
It was part of their, we'd have more of them driving on the roads, there'd be more road traffic. Things like that went into their analysis. That's the extent of my answer.
And we had public testimony, and it's on the record, we had public testimony that said you're actually going to probably not realize the revenues that you're talking about in the summer, because many people will wait to purchase things that are taxable until the tax rate drops back down to 2.5.
What was that website?
It's the borough website. All those documents are on the borough website. It's you can just type in Fairbanks Northstar Borough into any search engine and it'll pop up.
Roger. Yeah, I have a question. I can't quite understand why we're trying to give the larger companies that pay substantial amount of money into the for taxes. Why are we trying to give them a break? And then why are we going ahead and trying to create another bureaucracy, which is going to cost a lot of money to maintain? It's going to cost the businesses a lot of money to try to keep track of all these sales taxes. It's going to affect our ability to receive, we get a lot of business from the bush. And if there's a sales tax, they're going to go to Anchorage even more than they are now. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, my frustration was, I think the Information Insight study was a good study. And I was hoping that after the Assembly saw that, that would be the end of it, because I don't think it's accomplished the goals we do. But what was never discussed was the loss of sales, what we're going to experience as a loss to Anchorage and from the bush communities. Because you're right. It used to be under the old sales tax system that if you lived in Delta, you could get an exempt card and present it in the city. When that was mentioned at the borough, I think the mayor said, no, that wasn't the intent to do that this time. So in the old days, they would come in with their card and we'd fill out the paperwork by hand. And also for wholesale sales, if you had a business license and flashed it, we'd fill that out by hand too. But nowhere in there have I seen the definition of wholesale and retail, or even there is a differentiation between them. And we don't know what the loss of sales will be to Anchorage. Anchorage is going to be a big one, or to the internet. The internet's is becoming so huge. There was a whole section in this book I showed you earlier that was talking about communities that have sales taxes and the percentage that they've lost in sales to the internet, and how they're putting pressure on Congress to try and tax the internet now. And God help us if that happens, because I don't know how I would handle that as a group.
Let me
Roger,
throw
my
out
answer.
a couple of comments on that. From the state of California, they have a sales tax with no cap on it. So if you buy a new car, you pay the full sales tax in addition to. And they have an assessed value charge on the license, on the registration. So if it's brand new, you're at $2,000. Jay was asking if behavior follows. Behavior follows. People buy their cars in Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon. And they register them there, and they keep those tags as long as they can get away with it, because it's real money. They also have a personal property tax on inventory in stores. So if you are Sears anywhere in California, you have this massive warehouse in Nevada. The inventory is as of December 31st. And on January 1st, all these trucks come from Nevada into the Sears stores, or whatever the store is, restoring the inventory. It's worth it to them. People do behave that way, and businesses behave that way.
And people who fill out their personal federal income tax, they find ways that they can avoid paying taxes.
Sure.
That's the tax.
Sure.
That's one of the big tax games that we have in this country. Roger, if I may give a comment. Again, the Assembly put this before the voters to decide. You seem to have looked at things, you have very strong opinions about how you feel about it. That's what the Assembly is doing, putting this out here for people to say, do you want it to affect you in certain ways? Do you want it to affect the community in a certain way? You're making that choice. I'm sure you're going to vote.
Rick?
I'm concerned at what I hear the rhetoric from the government on this vote. And I want you to clarify for me. It seems that what you're saying is if you vote this down, it means that you really don't want any change, you don't want any reduction of government spending. This is your vote on that. I heard that from the mayor's office. I'm hearing that from the Assembly. I would be thinking what you might also look at is that this is a flawed tax proposal, and maybe the voters want tax relief, just not in this way. Or what they really are looking at is a reduction in the overall budget. But if you take it as a mandate on, we don't want to reduce government and revenue stream to the government by this vote, it sends you down a different course, and I'm just concerned about that. Conceptually, consumption taxes to me are a good idea. I think economically they make more sense. But this is not a consumption tax. You're exempting certain things. You're doubling it with no linkage between the services. So I get all messed up with the economics of it. You don't have any of the true believers that might support it. So I don't think you're going to get a valid vote. Will the Assembly and the mayor's office come back and not only look at saying, well, we got our answer now on that, will they actually look at levels of spending? If the vote goes down, will they say, we actually want to reduce spending? Was that soul searching going to go on?
I guess the short answer would be, I imagine the soul searching goes on all the time. He's going to be already starting, he being the mayor, is going to start working on his budget. The budget that he brought forward was, I believe, a 1% increase budget this year. So I don't really know what he's going to do, but I'm sure he's going to be soul searching. It was, from what I recall, his budget process, it was pretty agonizing for the departments. You've been in that position close to mayors before, Rick, yourself. You know what goes on with that. I think that what the Assembly is going to do, if I'm presiding officer, I'll probably continue having alternative revenue work sessions where we speak about what goes on. And go ahead, you were going to say something?
Do you look at the other 3/4 of the budget